Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jen Sharp, and Meredith Thomas is with me. And we are going to be presenting on the design and evaluation of educational programs and curriculum. I want to tell you a little bit about my background and what I'm interested in. I'm a PhD student and studying curriculum and teaching. And most of my application is in adult education, especially as it relates to skydiving. So as we go through this, we're going to be this as well.
And my name is Meredith Thomas. I'm a gifted and talented specialist. I'm also a PhD student in curriculum and teaching at North Central University. And my focus is K-12 education. And so without further ado, let's jump right in. So today we're going to discuss the design and evaluation of many aspects of educational programming. Before we do, let us leap forward in time. Let us imagine a future where curriculum and program evaluation has failed spectacularly. How would our society look, and who would suffer? What would be the reason for the failure? So in the next few slides, we will cover some key topics and answer the following questions. What is educational program? What are some effective ways to evaluate educational programs?
What is curriculum, and what are some ways to evaluate curriculum?
What are the key elements of a unit framework?
How can educators design and evaluate curriculum for inclusivity?
How is technology relevant to an inclusive approach to curriculum design?
How can educators design and evaluate curriculum for higher order thinking skills?
How is social justice relevant to curriculum content and design?
Learning management systems support teaching and learning, and what challenges might an LMS present?
And finally, we're going to talk about some trends and theories that educators should pay attention to and why. So first, we're going to discuss what is an educational program. And programs are systems that aim to provide students with services and curricula in a concentrated area. Educational programming exists at the federal, state, district, and school level. In addition to these systems, educational programs operate after school and during out of school time through the community organizations like churches, clubs, things like that. Within the district and the school system, various programs like grade levels and departments also exist. Not all of these variations of programs have a written vision, set of guiding principles, and measures for outcomes, but many have one or more of these qualities. The purpose of the evaluation is to establish a framework which will ensure instruction is relevant, data-driven, inclusive, and supported by research. Recommendations and program model adjustments, including the development of the curriculum, can be informed by ongoing reflection and instruction. Instruction is actually the most relevant area for the purpose of developing and evaluating the written curriculum. Jen, you want to?
So for example, if we are going to start evaluating and designing, we actually really need to have the big view and figure out how we're going to cut the stake up, basically. So in my work with the United States Parachute Association, we have several programs, but one of the programs is an instructional ratings program. And under that would be the curriculum. For example, the coach rating curriculum or AFF instructor rating curriculum.
So what is curriculum? What are we're going to share some ideas about evaluating curriculum too. So the terms program and curriculum are sometimes used interchangeably, although they are actually different. The curriculum includes everything that transmits the learning to a student. within actually the educational program. So it's a little bit more narrow. All the lessons, materials, resources, assessments, and instructional strategies, including what is left out, what students learn from social interaction and content not directly taught but modeled, make up a program's curriculum. Written curriculum follows best practices and it follows a backwards design, culminating in the understanding of the content standards. Student engagement, representation, and summative assessments are all considerations when constructing and evaluating written curriculum. And we recognize that bias is everywhere, and so it can be helpful to normalize the need to counteract bias by intentionally and actively integrating some social justice and higher order thinking skills into curriculum.
And we talk about curriculum, we would need to dig even deeper into the unit. And that's what we'll talk about next. So what really, we're talking about the unit framework. So what are the key elements of a unit framework? Basically, this begins with the end in mind, basically. This is understanding by design, because asking an effective question begins with having the answer in mind, and similarly, building an effective curriculum begins with the end game in mind. So at all levels, backwards design is powerful for planning. And to do that, we need to have a set of standards that we start with. So if we're designing or evaluating, we need to start with the standards. And that helps us formulate learning targets and assessments. And we have big ideas and essential questions. We'll draw out what's really important. We get our head out of the content and more towards what do we really want to have happen with learning. And because of that, then we can start constructing these goals and look at aligning everything with that end in mind, with the standards. And that includes summative assessment, it includes actually just the outcomes even from a single unit, from a single lesson. And all of them are going to come back to what standard does this meet? And if you're going to align everything, you would also take into account that you will need to make sure nothing is missing as well. So not only does this goal actually meet the standard, but now that I have everything figured out, I have the framework, I'm going to check back again and make sure, have I constructed all the goals and objectives that are needed? And the goals and objectives would be things like the students will know, the students will be able to, the student will understand. And this includes social emotional learning.
And so as we dig into the unit, and we're aligning our assessment with the objective, and we have the students aim for the response to their essential question, we can start to kind of see how all of this is funneling down. So we began with a program, and now we funneled into curriculum. The curriculum encompasses multiple units. So now we're going to drill into the actual lessons. So how can educators design and evaluate curriculum for inclusivity? So the Universal Design for Framework, the Universal Design for Learning Framework can support teachers who aim to design and evaluate their curriculum for inclusivity. Educators can construct an inclusive approach to a curriculum by anticipating their learners' needs and differences, and then breaking down those potential barriers to student learning. This is actually different from the reactive, reviewing a lesson that's already constructed and then adding paths in for differentiation when it's needed. The students have more ownership in their learning when they have agency and autonomy in the learning process. So when we are designing instructional lessons to deliver the unit as part of the curriculum, we're going to want to make sure that we have flexible assignments so that students have voice in and decision-making opportunities within their learning. That being said, students actually do appreciate limits and routine. So if we provide students with the frameworks and structure, for example, giving them a rubric, but we allow the students to set their own goals and then self-evaluate when they reach those goals. Not only are we motivating student-led learning and metacognition, but these practices engage students in equitable and inclusive exercises by allowing students flexibility in a structured environment to meet their learning goals. Technology is also woven throughout the principles of the universal design for learning.
And speaking of technology, that actually goes even beyond the lesson. Assistive technology is really appropriate. And, you know, Meredith, you said it right when you said anticipating the student's needs. And that's really the key. And using technology makes your job so much easier. And then you're going to be assured that you're going to have a design and you can evaluate an existing program that's going to really support learning. So our next question is, how can technology relevant to how is it relevant to an inclusive approach to curriculum design? So we're going to back out just a little bit more and talk about even just the curriculum design itself, or if you're evaluating a curriculum. And UDL is a guideline that can help, and technology really considered in the design itself instead of as an afterthought. However, studies have shown that technology can also hinder learning if not used properly. So how can we make this happen? Well, there are multiple ways for students to demonstrate learning by learning engagement and expression that follows the UDL model. And you just allow the potential for technology to help self-regulate learning and have spaced learning. For example, at USPA, we have a blended learning situation, and which really activates skill and builds background knowledge, because the students, adult learners, or even kids can generate their own learning by they invite inquiry because they have the content in front of them, especially in a blended learning environment. It's wonderful to have technology available. So scaffolding as well. You're basically establishing who is my student, point A, and you really get to know what their background is, and then you'll be able to really meet their needs. And technology can really make. One of the ways is also with a rubric, and there was a systematic review from English in 2022 that showed that when rubrics are used in formative assessment, student achievement is improved. So just a simple rubric ahead of time to help teach the criteria is really something that you put a little time in ahead of time, and it reaps the benefits in your classroom. Assessment for learning approach is another way that you can use technology. For example, an example of assessment for learning would be reflection. That's an easy one to implement, and you will see in educational technology a lot where there's a little piece of material and then it invites the student or the learner or the viewer to be able to reflect back on what's read, so it makes sense of the most important parts. And there's also other ways to use technology that are emerging, such as there's using AI to show students a review of what they need to study, and the technology can help with assessment for learning, because the technology can already tell on an individual basis what is lacking for the goals for this individual student.
Yeah, and in addition to those software capabilities, it's important to use educational technology to dig into the hardware capabilities. And that will actually drive student inquiry further. So for example, with my 4th and 5th grade students, I would give them Ozobots and ask them to solve a problem, get the Ozobot from point A to point B with a partner, and then send the code to their partner and see if they can replicate the solution. So it actually lends itself to student pursuing their own questions and trying to solve new problems and ask new questions.
And speaking of that actually supports critical thinking, which is another thing that we really need to consider. How can educators design and evaluate curriculum for higher order thinking skills? So higher order thinking skills, evaluating a curriculum in particular for this very important piece is critical because students deserve a meaningful education that makes it relevant to them, applicable in their lives and later, and not just for adults, for children who are, that's what we're basically doing, is helping them become real adults. We're not trying to help them add 1 + 1. They need to have critical thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. So how is it that educators can really do this with what they see in front of them? Programs that use higher order thinking improve student performance and support the achievement of those outcomes. Many occupations require higher order thinking skills like analysis, evaluation, and creativity. With everything changing so much in the world, it's almost like the skill to be adaptable is becoming more and more important no matter what you do. So we can also look at, we're actually digging into the details. What am I going to use? What tools can I use to actually do this? One of the best tools is Bloom's taxonomy. Now, taxonomy is sort of just like a classification of how you can evaluate your program. And Bloom, this idea in 1956, and it still has a lot of value today, and people have actually even built ideas on top of it, which is, but it starts with knowing and then understand, then learners can start applying it. And once they have that, they can actually analyze and then start creating and evaluating. And there's some thoughts also that you don't have to actually approach it from the bottom up, basically, that you have a curriculum that just implements higher order thinking just right off the bat. How deep does this lesson go? How deep do the outcomes go? There's an accompanying idea, and that is the depths of knowledge from Webb, and he built that in 1997. And instead of more of a classification, it's rather a way to analyze how deep thinking is used, recall skills and concepts, and then the higher order thinking, which would be strategic thinking and even extended thinking. How can I go further with this knowledge that I was presented? And this is really, really important. And the bottom line is that critical thinking and higher order thinking skills just help students learn the number one skill that they really need as an adult, which is, adaptability. And the approach you use, that if you're evaluating your curriculum or you're designing the curriculum, if you actually keep this in mind, then you realize that you can actually provide learners with opportunities to transfer knowledge to other domains. And there's a really great example where when higher order thinking skills were presented in a art class among teenagers who were doing some research, and it was supported through that. They began investigating and doing their own sort of research, and they found that the civic engagement among these teenagers was higher because they were studying art, really, and that was it. No, they were actually becoming wonderful citizens, and this is what we really need, the social justice piece, to be able to have critical thinking skills transfer to a lot of places in the children's and adults' lives.
Right. So for example, when you are evaluating your curriculum and you're looking to your lessons, we're going to look for specific opportunities for social justice and metacognitive opportunities for students so that they can reflect on their own thinking, try to build their emotional intelligence, and also empathy. So things like looking for activities like writing letters or creating any kind of motivational outcomes for the students to share with each other. So how is social justice relevant to curriculum content and design? So our students will experience bias everywhere, inside and outside the classroom. So it is essential to normalize the social justice and take action against bias. And educators can use the content standards and best practices in the classroom to evaluate and design curriculum that intentionally and actively counteracts bias through critical thinking, social emotional competencies, and metacognitive practices. Also, we're going to make sure that we are evaluating the curriculum and the instructional materials and determine whose perspective is really being displayed to the students, whose story is being told. And it's important to take steps towards creating an environment that supports the students' identity and their sense of belonging within reviewing those curriculum materials and resources. There is a framework known as the Washington Model, developed in 2009 and revised in 2020. It's a tool that educators can use that has 15 elements of curriculum and instruction that you can review for bias. It'll give you specific standards to review your curriculum for potential bias.
That's right, Meredith. I really appreciated the Washington model. It was very easy to just ask questions. And one of the things that I noticed when we were looking at the content for adult learners for skydiving is, as you said, it needs to be active, because if we had sort of a null curriculum where there's no stories being taught, there's no stories being told, and if it's just explaining these things and there's no stories and there's no relationship for the learner to be able to relate content, and that actually the null curriculum there is really important. So actively seeking where some of these stories can be told and relate, make a difference. Right now, we are at about 14% women in skydiving. And so we leave sort of the curriculum up to like a societal, cultural thing at local areas. And that's not really teaching people what's possible. So what's missing is just important.
Okay.
So we're going to look at learning management systems now. And so we're taking a step back even further. So we sort of dug into the programs, the curriculum, the unit, lessons, and have ways that we can look at certain pieces, even at all of those levels. But we're going to even take a bigger step back, because if we're talking about society, social justice, we really actually even need to dig way even more further out. And learning management systems is one of those things. So how might learning management systems support teaching and learning, and what challenges might an LMS, as it's called? So first, the purpose and use of an LMS. It's basically a flexible tool for K through 12 and adult educational students to provide just a platform of how this curriculum gets out. So when you're designing and evaluating, the actual piece that connects the learner to the program is something that, you know, we need to look at that. A lot of times teachers actually don't have the input as to what LMS they're going to be using. An example might be like Google Classroom, Moodle. There are a lot of those platforms that can be used as a tool, but you know, as a teacher, maybe you don't have the input to say what is used, but it's really an important piece that we should consider. There was a systematic review that Al Nuam and Al Imran in 2021 suggested that schools should offer students and teachers a wide range of rich experiences to support the LMS acceptance. And that will really help us. So there's some strengths and some difficulties that we will look at. Some of the strengths for teachers and students is that you can share material, you can provide those rubrics that students can reference at any time. You can deploy formative evaluations. It helps self-paced learning. You can support notifications to parents, collaborate in a cloud. It reduces technical barriers and promotes the eagerness and enthusiasm if the LMS is actually built great and easy to use. And it doesn't get in the way of what the teachers need to do to actually deploy the pieces that they need to help for learning. But not only is the ease of use critical for learning, but so is ease of use and the perceived usefulness. That's very important for learning. So the potential barriers might be, how much control does the teacher actually have over the presentation and the ease of use and the usefulness? Is it fitting in real need, or is it just using technology for the sake of using technology? Because students can get distracted from work. They don't have as much oversight. sometimes the learning curve for just using the system is pretty high. So it does seem that, let's say it's easy though, let's say that the entry to use is actually easy. That could also be a barrier because teachers may think, oh, I can just use this off the bat and not training. But it's important to get the training as well, even if the LMS is easy to use, because you need to max out the potential for the LMS. You could actually be inhibiting something that's capable. So you need to get professional learning opportunities and development. For example, Google Classroom offers certificates, and there's lots of free training, especially a lot of LMSs have free training. You take advantage of peer training or paid training, or even just share ideas for like in a forum and how you can really elaborate to be able to use it to its max because it's in the cloud. But the emphasis on professional development opportunities needs to still be there.
Yeah. So speaking of the professional development opportunities using learning management systems, it's also important for teachers to reflect on their own practice and be aware of any sort of implicit bias, and make sure that as we're discussing evaluating programs and curriculum and lessons, that we're also reflecting on our own practices. And so that'll bring us to relevant trends and theories. What are the trends and theories that we can recommend that educators pay attention to, and why? So if we're being reflective educators and we start thinking about what we might use, we might want to consider looking into the Universal Design for Learning framework. We mentioned it earlier in the presentation. It's a really good way of helping teachers break barriers to student learning.
Another one is the blended learning trend that really uses technology and spaces out learning. And a lot of people are also using that in adult education. It's very, very prominent. Or even just the micro learning trend, which if you don't blend the other part of that blended piece, people are learning things online and in very short bits and is learning, and it's gonna persist. It's been around for a little bit and it's just gaining momentum. And there's also MOOCs, which are massive open online courses. This is sort of like crowdsourcing education and putting content creation in the hands of people who could launch their own courses. And the LMS trend is just huge as well. So learning is definitely out there, even beyond, we really want to impart lifelong learning from students all the way through adults.
Right. And part of that lifelong learning is the social emotional learning theory. So looking into the social emotional competencies for students and seeing if you can integrate some of those practices into pedagogical approaches. And then we have two more. So assessment for learning.
An assessment for learning theory. That's another one that is has just proven itself to be where we no longer, okay, here we go. We're gonna read stuff or be a lecturer. Assessment for learning really integrates all of this. And if you're designing or evaluating the effectiveness, it's very important to consider. One of the things too, when you're talking about relevant trends and theories, are also just the shiny candy things, the use of artificial intelligence and virtual reality. That's definitely a trend. And this is what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to evaluate the effectiveness. So we need to be careful about how we use it. It's definitely something we need to pay attention to, and it's really relevant. There's a lot of fantastic opportunities, especially with VR. But as more technology is emerging, we need to evaluate, and that's what it's there for. We need to see it as novelties, but what is actually really contributing to learning in the long run.
Right, learning.
So we have some close.
Yes, learning first, technology second. Right.
That's right. So some closing thoughts. There's a lot of things that we presented here. We had a lot of questions of how we are going to evaluate and design curriculum just to be effective. But it really comes down to 3 questions. Instead of all those questions, let's just ask 3 questions. The first one is, what? What are students learning? How are they learning? And then why are these learning these particular things? So we have 3 tools overall that if you really try to remember what's really best here, these 3 tools will help you when to design or evaluate curriculum. So what? That is the understanding by design, backwards planning. Start with the end in mind. That's one of the best tools that you can do. If you don't remember a whole lot of other things, that one will really help get you there. The second one is how. And if you implement the UDL framework, you're going to have such rich experiences for students that they will be able to have those higher order thinking skills, that have the social emotional learning, and they'll have great experiences in their learning. And why are they learning things? Because we need them to be good citizens, and we can use the Washington model to make sure that we're telling the stories that help support all of this. So these 3 tools really help for lifelong learning.
Yeah. So let's revisit our vignette from the beginning of the presentation. Let us look forward to a future where students have grown up in an educational program with ongoing evaluation, reflection, and implementation of best practices. We will contribute to a society filled with emotionally intelligent, empowered, lifelong learners and critical thinkers. It starts with reflective and evaluative practices. It spreads with inclusion and equity, and it grows with patience and empathy. So the universal design for learning, the understanding by design, Washington model, and a robust standards-based curriculum are the blueprints to help educators continue to build the strongest programs to support students in their educational journey. So thank you so much for joining us at this presentation.